Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you, everyone. Hey, so a couple takeaways that I just, as you guys went around the room and Neil closing up, if there is a failure in the time, it is my fault. So let's just get that out of the way first. We're going to fail in time. So this particular slide, or this particular deck, is one of three. This is the future of work. It's been updated from 2024 to 2025. You are the first audience to hear the updated deck, which means I'm going to get to a couple slides and I'm going to look at them and I'm going to go, yeah, and I'll read a bullet point. I'm trying not to do that. I've gone through it many times. However, I want your feedback because this slide, this deck gets used. Neil's always gracious enough to let me try things out with this friendly audience. And then I'll take all that feedback, and then some of the conferences that are coming up in the fall, we're going to do this talk again, plus the other two. This sort of sets the stage for how the other two go as well. So your feedback's actually pretty important to me. All right, my name's Chris Lee. I'm a principal at Transform Labs. I typically manage the AI strategy and implementation projects with the AI team, some of the data teams. My side hustle is I'm the CTO of Atlanta Health. And by side hustle, I mean that's also my full-time job. So I have these two full-time jobs. Many of you, I'm sure, do. So we're going to kick this off. This is Navigating the Future of Work 2025. How many have seen the previous talk? 25%. All right. Let's give you a quick preview, so that way you guys are all up to speed without having to see the previous talk. All right. So predicting the future is a fool's game. You know, when we say, "Hey, what's the future of work?" There's no way I know what the future of work is. Right. However, we can look at the changes that have happened in the last year and a half, 2 years, and then we can make a pretty reliable prediction or a guess as to what's probably going to happen in the next 18 to 24 months, and then depending on what pundit you're listening to or what tech exec you're listening to, what's going to happen in the next 10 years. But we're going to focus for this particular talk on sort of that window of like what's been going on sort of in this blue space. Right, so we go back to the 1950s, so what's been really going on in this space. And then that last talk, we focused on ChatGPT and large language models, because that was the big thing. Think of 2024, right? They came out in 2023, 2024, we went, hey, these things exist as the things that we're using now. And then we moved on and said, hey, what would we guess at for that particular future? And that was agents and large action models. So essentially agents that can do work that get put into robots. I'm going to claim that my prediction was 100%. You're all friendly, so no one's going to argue with me. But if we look at anything in the news now, agents are the thing. So I'm going to go with called it. And then at the end of that particular thing, I asked AI to give me a slide of either a dystopian future or a utopian future that's based on AI. It came up with this picture, which is, it had dogs in it, so how bad can it be? Everyone seems to have one. I'm good with that. And then, what the building looked like, all right? Now, you have now caught up on the previous talk, all right? We're good. Let's move on. So this talk, we're gonna hit a couple of different topics. And this is, I'm just using them as break points to change sort of tempo in like what we're talking about. So that way you as the audience will know when I'm about to change subject, because sometimes that's jarring when I just go off on a tangent and no one knows where I'm going. And so we rein it back in and we go from there. So we're gonna talk about the shift that's happening now. We're gonna talk about things that are gold in the current environment versus things that are sort of garbage in the current environment. We're going to talk about the future of work is how is your job going to be changing. Then we're going to talk about how to participate in that change. And then we're going to talk sort of about what that long term looks like for humanity. All right, the big shift. Here's what's going on. All right, so everything you know about software as it existed prior to, let's say today. We'll go with today. Prior to today is wrong, all right? Because what we're doing is now is we're not getting better apps, we're starting to get digital coworkers. So this is what's going on now, right? So the old way to think about software is there was you in a circle. Then you would deal with some computer interface. There's probably some transaction that would happen with a database or some other system, and then you get a result. Seemed pretty straightforward. That's how we've done it since, you know, the 50s. That's how it worked. All right. So what are we changing to now? And this is one of those boil the frog moments where we are changing to this direction, and you're going to start seeing it. And that is, you are going to be acting or interacting with AI, and whether that's Claude or ChatGPT projects or you know, Claude Desktop or any of the new ones that are coming out, which we'll talk about. Their job is to go find the data, use tools, and do work for you, and then come back with an orchestrated contextual answer. So it's no longer you going to a app that opens up that has you know, 15 drop-down boxes and a bunch of buttons, but you being able to just have a conversation with an AI agent. It then, on your behalf, understands the context of what you're trying to do and goes out and does it. And it can talk to really whatever it wants to talk to. All right, so I get this, I've been asked this question, so why would we do that? Like, why would that happen? So the real reason is it allows us to have an intelligence layer between me and the computer that I'm working with. So a lot of times, and we say this all the time in product development, the person who's you ask, hey, what do you want, doesn't actually know what they want. They know what they're trying to accomplish. So if we could put a smarter interface in there that interprets what you're trying to accomplish, then it makes it easier for the system itself to make decisions on your behalf to go accomplish that, versus some programmer or some UX designer designing every single screen for every single use case that you might want to run, right? Systems integration are the AIs now, through some of the tools we're about to talk about, have the ability to go out and interact with any other system that they need to interact with, and they could choose what those systems are as long as we give them permission to do that. They understand the results coming back from those tools now and have the ability to sort of put together a contextual model, and then they can adapt their behavior and change and choose different tools based on your next interaction with that model. So that is a much better, in my opinion, way to deal with computing than it is for me to work with a designer to design a screen that does every possible feature and then figure out how every use case that an app needs somehow fits into all the screens that we're going to design, and then program all the screens, and then realize that the users need different features, and so we bolt different features on, right? That process that we've been doing for years and years and years that seems completely normal will be changing. We're not going to do that in the future. All right. So you'll see on these slides that there is a takeaway. If you read that bottom line, that's all you need to know. Like, you don't need to listen to me, just read the green lines.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go on. So there's three things that are facilitating that change from point-and-click software to sort of agentic software that I get to deal with. All right. We're going to talk about those three things. One of them is MCP. Anthropic released Model Context Protocol, and they really released it about a year ago, but it didn't really catch on until about the last 2 or 3 months. And how many people here, I'll say, have ever used an MCP service? 2. Okay. So MCP is not a thing, it's a protocol. And that allows large language model agents to select the tools they want to use, understand the tools that are available to them, and then understand how to use those tools without a programmer getting involved. All right? So I can go to Claude Desktop, which you can all download it, go to Claude Desktop. Down in the bottom, you'll see in the bottom bar where if you click on it, it'll show you a list of things it can talk to, like Gmail or your Google Calendar or whatever. That's an MCP conversation that it's having with Google. So it's just a protocol. It's how computers talk to each other. It's how language models interrogate the tools that are available to them. talk to that tool, figure out what it can do with that tool, decide which feature of that tool to use, and then use that tool on your behalf based on what you asked it to do. All right? So MCP is the way that language models that we deal with can now reach out and on their own do tool selection, can figure out how to use the tool, and can use the tool. All right. So instead of me telling Claude or whatever language model we're dealing with, instead of me saying, hey, I need you to go to the Google API, I need to give you the credentials to the Google API, I need to know the API call that you need to make in order to do this particular thing I want you to do, MCP allows the language model to read enough of that information to make that determination for itself. All right? So that's that first step, and when I'm talking to an agent, it's able to talk to other things from an orchestration perspective. All right. The second big change is we've come up with some agent communication standards. So an agent, which we talked about in the last talk, and just to bring you quick bit to speed, an agent essentially is a set of code that knows how to interact with a language model and use tools and has some kind of memory. All right, so it sort of can remember what it's doing. Something that can act on your behalf is your easy definition of an agent. So both Google and IBM has released 2 protocol standards that are out there now, and they work really well. One is A to A, the other one is ACP. They basically do the same thing, but that allows, we just talked about MCP, which allows an agent to interrogate a tool or select a tool. Yeah, A to A and ACP allows 2 agents to have a conversation and trade data back and forth. Okay? So now I can have a conversation with one agent. It could realize it needs to interact with another agent. It uses A to A to do that. It'll have a conversation. That other agent can use tools on its own. It can come back with its own context and result sets back to the first agent. The first agent uses that just like it uses any other tool and then interacts with me. All right. So MCP and A to A or ACP are the 2 big changes from a protocol. Like everyone has now agreed that those are the standards. So everyone is now writing code to that, which I think is the significant part. And then the third really significant thing that has happened is context memory. So, well, let's ask this question. Raise your hand if you use AI, chat agents like ChatGPT, Claude, whatever. Okay, it's everything, right? Okay, we're gonna go with everybody. Everybody. All right. So, you should. But we'll talk about that later. Right. So context memory is this concept that when you fire up ChatGPT, everyone went through this prompt engineering. Oh, you got to learn prompt engineering. You have to know how to ask the question. You know how to essentially trick a language model into doing what you want it to do. Right? You have to be smarter than that and be able to participate. All right. The problem is, and you may experience this. The problem is when you open up a brand new one and say, I want a new chat. Prior to about 6 months ago, it would know nothing. And you would start over. So you would paste in your prompt and it would start and have a conversation, and then you would start building up this context. And you'll hear a lot about context windows, like how big is the context window for this particular model? Because context windows is really the running memory, the context of all the chats that you've had, all the responses that have come back, all the things that you've asked for, all the tool usage. Right? Essentially, think of it as a big, huge, long receipt that just keeps getting longer and longer and longer. Well, those are limited. We only have so much paper, right? This is a terrible metaphor, but I'm just going to stick with it. I made it up on the fly. Just bear with me as we walk through this together, right? So it's got this very long receipt of all the transactions that you've had with it, all the things you've asked it for, all the things it's answered with, okay? But that paper is only so long. That's a context window. And when it runs out, it starts deleting from the top. And so things you asked for early are no longer available to you. Right? So context memory management, what the language models have done is they've increased the context size. So Claude has now extended it out to have a longer paper trail. Gemini has a 1,000,000 context paper trail, which essentially you can paste in War and Peace, and like that's how long the context window is. So the thought process is, well, that's great. I have this massive context window that's available to me. I could just keep going. Well, there's a problem because the way language models actually work with their prediction of the next set of tokens, which is what they're really doing, it pays more attention to certain parts of your context window, and it depends on which model you're working with as to which parts it pays attention to. Right? So there's this test that we can do to language models where we will give it a huge context and then we will ask it for the what is in a particular sentence in the middle of a giant context window. So think of taking a 400 or 500 page document, loading it into a language model, and then asking for some trivial piece of information like the color of the dog's fur, which may be in the middle of a chapter, in the middle of, not even in the primary context of the document, and see if it can come back with that, right? That's the needle in the haystack test. So can your model do that? And can it pick out very specific things regardless of the latest set of context that's there? So they've been working on the context memory and context channeling. The thing that we've now done is we've come up with strategies now that we can take those contexts and subdivide them and store them all. So that way we can activate specific sets of contexts if the thing I'm talking about is relevant to that. So take for instance, if I have a long chat that I've been having, and I'm going to make up another metaphor here. So these are the things I'm working out with you on the fly, by the way. All right. So we have a long set of context, and it's about, I don't know, home improvement, right? And I have a whole thing about like how to fix my furnace, and I have a whole thing about how to fix a water heater, and all my landscaping topics and all that, and it's in a single context. When I start asking it questions about vendors, it has to go through all of that context to figure out what vendor am I talking about. And especially if I talk about landscaping first, and then went to all my mechanicals, and then I start asking questions about, hey, when are the mowers going to come back? When are they going to do tree pruning? Whatever that question is, it's got to go through the entire context. Much of it is unnecessary, but we're paying for that entire context. So every time you make a request to a language model, it's passing the entire context in. And as your context gets bigger, request after request, that's how you're burning tokens. And of course, the new fuel in our economy is tokens. That's what you're paying for. So all of our context memory management techniques that we're deploying now, like Claude projects and artifacts, and OpenAI now has projects coming out in January, I think. Well, those are already out. Their agents are coming out in January. All of those are aimed at creating context windows that are aware and smaller. All of our agent-to-agent conversations that we're having right now, where one agent can spin up another agent through A2A, keeps their contexts independently. So that way we're not cluttering in having one massive context, we're having smaller context windows, so our agents are smarter and able to do specific work. All right.
Okay, I'm going to go with goldfish cult.
Have you ever seen Ted Lasso?
Nope.
I'm sorry.
That's what everybody says.
Yeah. All right. So there's this it is wrong, but there's this sort of metaphor out there that a goldfish has a very short memory. So be like a goldfish. Don't carry grudges long periods of time. Don't be angry for long periods of time. Don't be regretful for long periods of time. So be like a goldfish and forgive, right, is the sort of the metaphor. But context windows and language models are very much like goldfish. The next chat you open up has no idea of any of the chats that happened before it, but that problem is now getting fixed.
Okay.
Right? It's a good question. All right. So these three pieces actually exist, and that's why you're starting to see this change in behavior of how people are interacting with AI and how people are using AI and some of the hallway conversations you might be having about AI, right? And I know every time we have one of these talks, it seems like, oh, the last 18 months has been crazy, or the last 6 months, everything has changed. It's like, okay, the last probably 6 weeks, everything has changed. And that's where we're at right now. Now you've heard it first. There you go. All right. So we had these major changes in how we interact with agents, and how agents manage their own memory, and how agents can talk to tools, and how agents can talk to other agents. There's also been a massive investment in the AI infrastructure. So, and this is why AI will never be free. Like, people are like, oh, I use Gmail for free, and like, I don't have to pay for Gmail. Like, when someone tells me that they're using the free version of chat, my immediate reaction is you should probably at least pay the $20 because you get more tokens. It opens up a number of features for you. And then when we have conversations about, well, you know, chat is good at one thing, Claude is good at another thing, Perplexity is good at another thing, and then inevitably we'll get to, do you pay for all of those? And it's like, well, I don't, Transform Lab stuff. But yeah, we definitely subscribe to all of those services. All right. So why is it not free? Well, so we'll just talk about US data centers. So we're not talking about overseas, we're only talking about US. So 92 gigawatts of additional capacity in just the US is the power requirement for running US data centers, and that's before any new ones are built. All right, US data center, a typical data center is about a $50 billion investment, and it requires $10 to $15 billion in CapEx over 3 or 4 years. Which means it has to earn that much in order to be valuable enough to have put online. So they need to be able to recoup the revenue and the spend on that particular thing. Surprisingly enough, $20 is not enough. So when you have a $20 subscription to any of those services, they are losing money on you, which is why you've seen Chat and Claude and now Perplexity with Comet go to a $200 a month model, because they're still losing money on you at $200 because of these investments that they have to make to put the data centers on. But that's when you hear about deals where either the government or venture capital is coming in and they're putting billions of dollars into a data center, is because they need to stand that data center up from a competitive perspective, and they need to own that space for you to be able to go, oh, I don't have a slowdown when I use Claude, or I don't have a slowdown when I use ChatGPT. Otherwise, you'd have contention. Anthropic actually went through that. If you remember, probably about 4 months ago, Anthropic would always be running out of, like, you know, hey, it's not available, it's not available. That's also why Anthropic last week changed their pricing model to say, we are capping your essentially real-time usage, and then we will have a cool-down period for you, and then we have a weekly total usage, and then we have a monthly total usage. And so it's capping you not only in like real-time interactions, but it's also capping you on how much you can use in a week and how much you can use in a month. And that's if you don't go to the max plan for $200. But if you're paying the $20 a month, you're going to get capped. And so I have a $20 a month to Claude, and I use Claude a lot. Claude Code, actually, I use it for all kinds of non-programming things. But looking up a lot of this information, I would spin up agents, they would go out and do work, and then I would inevitably get with the, you've used all your tokens for today, come back at 7 p.m. tonight. All right, I would just switch to another model and just keep going, right? But at 7 p.m. tonight, I would jump back over and make my agent spin back up and start doing work again, right? GPU clusters, this is why NVIDIA stock has taken off, because you're going to use about 200,000 GPU clusters per data center. And then the XAI is talking about putting in 1 million GPU data center online. So if you haven't invested in NVIDIA, I know there's stock people here, but you probably want to talk to them about it. And then from an environmental perspective, not only do you have electricity, but you have water consumption. So I live in Marysville, and Amazon is talking about putting a data center in Marysville. This water is actually the conversation that we're having. Not power, It's about water consumption, how much water can the area actually support, along with, Marysville is growing, so more and more housing is going in, more and more apartments are going in. So how can you support a data center that's going to be consuming billions of gallons of water annually, which, this is total water consumption for US plants, but that is 18.5 million houses is currently what's being consumed on a daily basis to run our data centers just in the US, right? So there's a massive investment in order for you to have a $20 account to talk to Claude or to talk to ChatGPT. So use it wisely and use it to its maximum as long as we use it. All right, so this is a slide I stole from Ryan's deck. It's the only slide I use, by the way, just to let you know. Neil, it's the only slide I used from his deck. All right, so this is Global Center construction cost and sort of what it's going to look like over the next several years, meaning we're not going to stop building data centers because AI consumption is going to continue to increase, which means we need capacity, which means we need to invest in the infrastructure around AI. So that's what we're doing. So that's in the future of what we're doing. All right. So, but we've seen this before. Not at the scale of AI, but this is a common playbook about any technology that starts to take off that turns into a consumer technology. So we're not talking about a technology that is primarily used only in business. We're talking about technology that hits consumers start adopting it, and then that becomes the way of life, all right? And the phase one is we build up an infrastructure, which is what's happening right now. And we can use, whether you want to talk about the iPhone, or whether you want to talk about email, or whether you want to talk about the internet just generally back in the day, back in the 90s and the 80s when the internet was taking off. You have to have the infrastructure in place before consumers will adopt it. Because if consumers can't use it, they're not going to adopt it. The second phase, which is currently what's going on right now, is the developers' tools emerge. So when you think of when like iPhones and Android phones first came out, there's a race to get developers to use it, because if you don't build the apps for it, people aren't going to adopt your device. Right? That was one of Apple's big things. If you look at any technology that has turned consumer, it follows that same process of infrastructure. You must get people to build things for the consumer on that infrastructure. And then the last part, which is the part that's coming up in the next 2 to 3 years, is the business applications that use that infrastructure and those tools will start to come online. And we're just starting to see the beginning of that through the startup ecosphere and some of the very large vendors coming online with AI features. And what's interesting is your business applications maturity is still low, in my opinion. So if you look at things like Salesforce Agent, and guy that lives on my street and we're really good friends, he's a VP at Salesforce and hates it when I talk about Salesforce. But if you think about what's going on there, their adoption rate's low, people don't like it, it's not doing the work that they want, it's the, hey, it's a hype, unfinished promise kind of thing. Well, that's because we're here in the implementation phase, and they're trying to sell this. So what you're going to see is over the next 2 or 3 years, those things will actually start working. So they don't work now, but they will start working as we go into the future. All right. This is the phase that we'll go through pretty quickly. Separating the gold from the garbage. I was looking for, get your feedback. I was looking for another, I don't like the term garbage, but like every time you go, hey, what's the opposite of gold when it comes to measuring something? It's like garbage. It's like, I don't like the word garbage, because not everything here is garbage, but if you guys want to think for a little bit and then come back to me afterwards, like, give me a better, I was like lead. Nah, I don't like lead. Yeah. Litter.
Or plots.
Finding the things.
Separate the wheat from the chaff.
Okay. I'm gonna. If you ever see this again, I will give you credit. All right.
Fish in the backwater.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. So let's talk about development AI. So we're gonna, for all the programmers out there. How many programmers do we have in this room? All 4 of you.
A name for fools goes high rank, so it's something.
But would that be over like people
Somebody
said,
said that, I don't know.
yeah, yeah, I like Pyrite though. All right, so what's gold? Currently, what's gold? So this is for developers, right? Cursor, Claude Code, GitHub Copilot, and there's some people like, GitHub Copilot, come on. And I'm like, no, that's actually pretty good, especially when it comes to like GitHub Actions and some of those kind of things that it's using underneath. Microsoft, and I'm sure this was unbiased completely, Microsoft said that they have 56% faster task completion using AI than not using AI. They don't say whether the tasks were well completed, past QA, I wasn't part of the study, it was just like speeding up. There have been some studies coming out, and Anthropic released one recently that said developer productivity actually goes down with the use of AI, but typically that's because they are in the learning curve of how to actually use the tool. So the study was done immediately after developers started using some of the AI tools. If you read the study and sort of read the tea leaves that are at the bottom of that study, what you'll realize is they were really talking about, well, if you bring a brand new developer in that's never used these tools, you give them the tools, and then you measure them immediately, their productivity is lower, which makes sense. Models that are gold. Gemini 2.5 Pro, that's gold right now. Now, developers will be like, Gemini is not good at code though. Yeah, but Gemini has a massive context window and can consume entire code bases and give you relevant conversations with that code base. So I switch to Gemini when I need to do sort of the overview of an entire code base that I'm unfamiliar with, especially creating, like, here's my plan, go give me my PRDs of this particular a project requirements document, sort of like give me the overview of this code base. I use Gemini for that. I don't use it for actual writing code. Claude is spectacular writing code, so that's the one I go to the most. And then ChatGPT is also good at code, so when I run out of my Claude tokens, I switch over to GPT. All right, so those are gold. All right, context understanding, context windows that we talked about. You know, how much can I actually feed into the windows? These three are still gold. These are what you would want to use on a day-in-day basis, which is nice. I try not to put logos on garbage screens. So what's garbage? I'm not gonna go, hey, this product's garbage, right? Because that product could change tomorrow and then I'd be wrong and then I'd have to update the slide deck and then who wants that, right? But garbage, so that concept that AI is gonna replace programmers, that's garbage. That's not gonna happen. We will talk a little bit about AI's impact on junior programmers versus senior programmers in just a little bit, but is AI like, no one's ever going to program again? That's not true. There's complex architectures that get created. You still have to sort of have the big picture. Typically, people get into development and get trained conceptually in how to look across the entire ecosystem, draw the whole thing in their head, and then when someone knocks on the door, it all falls apart, and then they have to recreate it in their head. But being able to do that as what you do for a living is that. Vibe coding, garbage. Who vibe codes?
What is that?
Okay, so vibe coding is this term that came out in the last 4 months that says, I'm just going to have a conversation with a programming language model like Claude, and whatever code it writes must be good. And then I'm going to ask it to do the next feature, and the next feature, and the next feature, and whatever code it writes, I'm just going to accept and move on and let it continue. All right. The reason why that's garbage is unless you're a very senior developer that knows exactly what you want it to do and can control the context window, if the average person just starts having a conversation about code, they have no idea what it's actually producing. Which means the code that it finally ends up with is garbage. Then what will happen is you will start running into problems where it will tell you that it's doing something and it won't do it. Or you'll be like, hey, is this application working? And it'll go, it's working. And then you realize that it hard-coded all the data. And you're like, but it hard-coded all the data. It needs to go get it from an API. And it'll go, I'll do that for you. And it won't do that for you. Right? And it'll just go back and forth and back. And you end up grinding into Never Land. Right? So that's vibe coding. Garbage. All right. There was in my last slide deck, we talked a little bit about Devin. Devin is, it was released as a marketing thing a couple years ago, and I'm going to say marketing thing. But it was this concept of, oh, it's a engineer you have a conversation with, it's completely automated, it will go build all your code, it understands all your code base, it can figure out all your sort of interactions that you want, and it'll write all the code for you, and it's near perfect, right? Garbage. Devin was proven that it didn't work, and then they've been struggling to like make it relevant again. In fact, they just bought an IDE that actually is pretty good, called Windsurf, and we're going to see what Cognition Labs, who's the owner of Devin, does with this IDE. That's actually pretty good. So we'll see sort of how they make that turn into Devin. We'll see. And then in my last presentation, I did put some heavy emphasis on something called the SWE agent, which is a benchmark that tells us how different models are doing for programmers. And I predicted by December of 25 that something on the benchmark will get to 100%. So basically the benchmark says how good is a human, and then models are matched against that based on all these tests that we run against it. And it's now in the 80%, like someone will say, hey, we're 82% there, and like the trajectory is on course. But those are the worst models to actually use in programming, because they're training those models to win at a benchmark, not actually be useful in day-to-day life. So I'm going to say some of those benchmarks are garbage. You don't need to pay attention to them. When you see them come out and like, oh, this one's now at 82% and it's better than this one at 79%, the only way that you're actually going to know if that's better is use it and see how it solves your particular problem. All right. We are now moving away from the developers, and now we're back to the general audience. How many of you have dealt with AI voice? Not just sort of the IVR, but like real AI voice. Like talk to it. You guys talk to it? Okay, some of you. About a year and a half ago, Google did a demonstration where they asked it to make an appointment for me at a barbershop, and it dialed out to a barbershop, talked to the human, scheduled a barbershop call or an appointment, and then put it on your calendar, right? That was all through voice. So the voice revolution is actually here. So there's two gold products out there. One is Retail AI. We worked with that with one of our clients at Transform. Their entire business is now based on Retail AI. They're rolling that out as their underlying infrastructure, and they're killing it. Because Retail AI is amazing. We did a vendor comparison against a whole bunch of voice vendors, and Retail is really, like, they're just on it. Vappy is a close runner second. What's nice about these is one of our drivers was low latency, which means when a person says, hi, I need to know what your schedule is today, how fast can it get through the entire way through the system, do a database lookup, so translate my speech to text, use a language model, talk to some MCP services or direct database calls, get the data back, translate that text that it gets back into speech, and then talk to me, right? We are at about 620 milliseconds, which is a little over half a second, which is almost unaudible. Like, you almost can't tell that there's a delay. And what they've done, and both of these tools have done, is they put in white noise. And by white noise, I mean it will go, let me look, while it's actually doing the transaction. It's like, okay, good, right? I'm like, yeah, you right, yeah, it sounds like you're actually talking to a human. So, good tool. Another set of gold for general, not just phone, which is those two are phone system, but overall, 11 Labs and Murph. These are real time, they are emotionally appropriate. You can give them sub-clues as to how you want words spoken, or, hey, he saw the dragon and was excited. And it'll be, I see a dragon, that kind of thing, right? And so these tools are very good at mimicking human speech in that way. All right.
There are no garbage that I've run across in this particular space. There's some that I'm not even going to talk about because they're not worth mentioning, but if you go with those 4 and sort of look at them, you don't really need to look at some of the other ones at this point until they come up to speed. But there's the saying in the voice space, which is $1,000 conversation for 20 cents of compute costs. Because I can have that agent do all those work for almost nothing, and a phone call at 15 cents for an end-to-end. And this is the tool that one of our clients does, which is inbound phone call. It's a government agency. That government agency that picks up, it's like, hi, can I help you? And yeah, I need to see what your hours are for your Northeast branch. Oh yeah, our hours for the Northeast branch. Any particular day, or do you want the whole week? Just on Friday. The hours on Friday are 10 to 8. Okay, thanks. Click. That was not a human having that conversation, and it costs about 15 cents. Whereas if a human had to pick that up, we're paying them by the hour to sit at a phone, and who wants to actually do that particular job, right? So your ROI is easily recouped in the enterprise, and then right now there's 10 million concurrent calls in AI orchestrated platforms a day is what's happening right now. So your takeaway here is voice isn't the future, it's the present, especially in customer service, but really all jobs are going that way. The context problem we talked about, gold, is session persistence, which is essentially like using Claude projects and ChatGPT memories. Like if you're not using Claude projects or memory, or like chat memory, you should do that like when you walk out of here. Like if you're starting a brand new chat single thread every single time, you're missing out on a lot of the new tooling that they're putting into these tools, and it'll benefit you. Agent state management, this is the ability for a system to understand history and progress and know where it was when it had a conversation with you, even if it's an agent that gets spun up by another agent. The next time that agent spins it back up, it can come back into context if the context is still your request. And then context continuity. We talked about these 200,000 token memories, coming online, and Google just released a million token memory, right, which we talked about. All right, garbage, things that you don't want. The goldfish brain, right? Don't want that. And that's forgetting everything between sessions, and you can cause that to happen by just starting a new chat every time that you have a chat. So what you should start doing is thinking about either putting a project in place or using a previous chat thread if it's the same context about what you've been talking about before. So when I talk about landscaping at my house, I have a single thread, I go back to it over and over and over and over and over. I don't start a new chat. Right? You can also drop documents into project like estimates and pictures of flowers and all kinds of other stuff that you want, and the language models will understand all of those contexts. So do not start from scratch every single time. If you walk away with nothing more, just make that one change. All right. Workflow automation, gold, N8N, temporal, and perfect. So temporal, N8N is like, it sort of ate the Zapier make market, and it's the orchestration tool that has AI built into it. It's really straightforward to use. If you're thinking about, hey, how would I classify my Gmail, and then if it's from a customer, send it to a customer service person, like any of those simple automations you would think of, start with N8N. And then it could get very complex as you need it to get complex. Temporal is a very similar thing. It's orchestration, but it's very fault tolerant. It's for enterprises. So an enterprise organization that's using temporal, essentially you can shut the temporal servers down while transactions are happening, spin them back up, they understand where they were, and they keep going. So, and then perfect is a similar kind of thing, only on a smaller scale. Other gold in the enterprise like API integration is MuleSoft and then Azure Logic apps. So if you have to do if you're in the Azure space or Office 365, Azure, that kind of stuff, you want to look at Azure Logic apps to do some of those logic mapping kind of things. And then MuleSoft, if you're enterprise, you already know what MuleSoft is. Anyone using MuleSoft? I normally get boring. And then in the production orchestration, there's two. One's Airflow, and then the other one is GitHub Actions. again, people are like, GitHub, why are you putting GitHub? Because GitHub Actions is actually a nuts and bolts transaction management feature that we use every day underneath the systems nobody ever sees, but from a technology perspective, it's super useful. Good. Garbage. Zapier agents. Not Zapier. It's not great. It's not anymore, but Zapier agents, terrible. Because it needs a lot more maturity. It's only good for simple tasks kind of thing. Make.com is, most users complain about it's unusable as it gets complex. Like the more complex you make a make.com workflow, it gets unusable. I know that there's a lot of people, especially in the real estate field, that love make.com. Like they'll make a lot of make.com flows. Those are very simple flows. Very complex flows, you're going to move to something like an edit end to do. And then pretty much anything that says it's no code. I have not yet found, and I try, but I've not yet found one that's good, all right? And then the next section is what the robot was supposed to do for your web browsing. It's getting better. So let's talk about this real quick. So Comet just was released last week. So Comet is from Perplexity. Comet's a tool that you can go to and ask it questions. It'll do research for you. It'll come back with that research. You can do long-running tasks where it'll go off on its own and then alert you when it's done. It's very good. So I have access to Comet and been using it pretty regularly. Claude computer use, which is part of the desktop. You can actually just have a conversation with Claude desktop and it will understand your file system. And you could say, hey, move all these files from this folder to this folder. And Claude can do that for you now. Right? And then in January, OpenAI Operator is going to be coming online. They just did their marketing presentation for it. Where they all sat around the table and showed everybody using it and how cool it was. But Operator we'll see when it gets here how good it is. So what is garbage in this space? All three of those things are garbage. Right? Because we're at that maturity point, right? Where Comet is awesome until it's not. Like Claude will get you there until you run out of tokens and it can't figure out the next thing, right? So I highly suggest using these types of tools, but understand they're also garbage. They're great. They're awesome garbage. That's why I just don't like the word garbage, right? I mean, there needs to be some like kind of thing. Multi-agent systems are getting real. So this is where when we talked about sort of orchestration, you can make a question and it could talk, A to some other agent. Those things are starting to work together. Gold in this space is LangGraph and AutoGen, Claude agents, and then specialized agent teams for specialized tasks. You could spin those up with like N8N or some of the other tools that are out there. All right, I'm noticing the time and I'm speeding up. Perhaps having 99 slides wasn't the way to go for 45 minutes. Garbage, fully autonomous agents, swarms, because there was something called Swarm. Those still aren't there. They're trying to get there, but they're not there. So this is where you can do like, oh, this AI agent team is completely unattended and it'll do all your work for you. And you wake up in the morning and it's done all these things. Like, that's not real. So I've tried. It's not real. Generally, our workers, there's a lot of promises in the field when you see a tool spin online and they're like, it'll do everything, it's super smart, it's AGI. No, it's not. And then anything that is set and forget and you never need to monitor it or pay attention to it again, that's garbage. I'm just being honest with you. So, all right, there's 100,000 middleware companies have run into a wall. And so middleware is this concept of I have one system that needs to talk to another system and somebody wrote a piece of software that sits between those two systems to trade data with those two systems, right? Think of middleman. There's thousands and thousands of middleware companies that are out there that have tools. The ones that are gold are anything that is API management platforms, because that's still essential. So anything that can understand APIs and connect to APIs automatically without programmers doing all of that work. Like Doohickey does a lot of that kind of stuff. So any of those are gold. You want to look at those. Specialized integration tools that are domain specific. And then anything that's hybrid orchestration, which means humans are involved at the same time AI is involved. So if a human is in the loop, you're doing well. All right. What's not good in this space? They could change garbage to not good. But, simple data transformers, like anyone who has come up with a product that knows exactly how to send a piece of data from product A to a piece of data from product B, and it does that, and that's the only thing it does. There's no need for those now because AI will replace that. Generic middleware, where you have to like drag and map things automatically. You're like, our tools are smart enough to be able to do most of that kind of stuff now. Get a little human in the loop at the end of that, and you'll be fine. And then anything that's one size fits all, if it's like, oh, we sell to a startup and we sell to a Fortune 100 company, it's probably not a tool that you're going to want to spend a lot of time and energy in. All right, plot twist. We're almost out of the, China just dropped the mic. So DeepSeek is now matching GPT-4 capabilities at a fraction of the training costs and a fraction of the CPU costs. Quinn, which is a Chinese model, it has done extremely efficient training model and measures, and Quinn is actually, Quinn 2.5 is pretty good to use in coding. I don't use it on a day-to-day basis, only because there's that whole geopolitical kind of thing going on. Like I'm not sure if I want all my data going everywhere. And then there's a tool out there called Hugging Face. If you're not sure what Hugging Face is, they got the best logo on the market, really. I mean, the company wasn't supposed to be named Hugging Face. You hear the founder tell the story, and it's sort of funny that it's still called Hugging Face. But Hugging Face is it.
May I address just quickly the DeepSeek and Quinn? Is either one addressed data privacy?
So both can run local. So you can run both of them local on your own hardware if you want to. And they're open source, which is sort of the goal here. This particular slide is these are open source. You don't have to use DeepSeek going to deepseek.ai. You can actually get that model and run it anywhere you want to run that model. So it's just harder, right? People are lazy.
At least you own your data.
Right, but you own your data, yeah. But this slide is really talking about open source rivals closed source. Everything that you can do in Claude and everything you can do in OpenAI, you can do in an open source product as long as you have the resources to run that. Your benefit of using Claude and Chat is you don't have to run your own servers, you don't have to run your own GPUs, you don't have to do your own inference. But if you're into super privacy, that's one way to go. All of the big hosting vendors, Google, Azure, and AWS, also have private versions of all of these models that you can use, even the OpenAI ones, where your data is not actually shared with OpenAI, it's kept within your enterprise ecosystem. So you can use those models without having to spin up your own hardware. All right, we're now to your job is changing. It is 1 o'clock. What time is this supposed to be over?
1 o'clock.
I mean, it's 12:45.
So it's 1 o'clock right now. I'm going to propose that we let this go 5 more minutes.
5 more, okay.
Deal?
All right.
Okay, all right. If you have to leave, it's not rude. You can get up and leave. It's fine. Okay?
I won't hold it against you.
Let's go 5 more minutes, all right?
For the most part. If I ever see you again. Oh, that door's, oh, I thought it blocked. Okay.
Thank you.
So your job's changing. I'm gonna go through this pretty quickly. Automation is out. So this is where we talk about routine cognitive tasks are now being replaced. So if your job is a routine cognitive task, you do it over and over and over, it's the same thing, that's easy to be replaced. So complex problem solving and then professional like augmentation kind of work in the next 2 to 3 years, that'll get replaced. And then in over 5 years, multi-domain expertise will get replaced. So what skills should you have as we move forward? Domain expertise and AI fluency is your competitive advantage. So I have a lot of conversations with people like, oh, I'm going to college, what should I do? Build a relevant domain experience in some domain, not a generic thing like, oh, I'm a programmer. That's not domain experience. Some domain that you have access to, and then AI fluency. And the future belongs to those AI augmented domain experts. That is where you want to be. That's my sort of bottom line. What competencies do you have to do that? AI fluency, you should be using these tools. Workflow design, you should understand sort of the basics of a tool like N8N or some of the other ones. N8N is my recommendation. It's super easy to pick up. You have tons of videos on YouTube. watch them, use the tool once or twice, you'll get it. Because if you can do any of the basic workflow designs, you're important in your organization. And then again, domain expertise and AI. So we talked about the old way versus the new way about how software works, because there's new performance optimization, different security governance models, the economics of AI. I'm gonna skip past this one because we've talked about that. Voice first. Just skip past that one a little bit. I want to get you to how to participate. All right, so the professional advantage window is 2 to 3 years. So AI fluency, early adopting, and then human AI workflow design. So how do humans use AI is an important skill to be able to have at this point. Not necessarily you're an AI expert that can go build models and those kind of things, but how would any organization, like what tools should they use, how would they do it, and what's the process that they would go through? Those are the important things, is your current opportunities. So what should you do? You should start now, if you haven't already started. And within 90 days, become your organization's AI integration expert. So when somebody in your org thinks about AI, you want to be the person they go, oh, you should ask this person. Because that gives you the best positioning for that job and any future jobs. You should design for amplification, not replacement. So like when I look at like how should a system work and like how am I going to implement AI into that system, I'm never really looking at how can I displace people. I'm looking at how can I do the low-level work to allow the people to do the strategy work. And that's, if you start thinking along those lines, you're going to be good. Transparent AI decision process, like why are we doing what we're doing and how are we doing it? And then you should have human oversight built into all your workflows. There is no fire and forget yet, where it just does it on its own. All right, how do you do that? Configurable automation levels and then human in the loop workflows. Those are the two things that you want to be able to do. Like I don't need to go in and automate everything in your organization. I need to, as we talk to some of our clients, I need to get base hits. I need to get runners on base. I don't need to actually win the game on the first swing. I need to be able to start doing and chunking away at this particular problem for any particular organization. The learning loop for organizations, we'll skip over that just a little bit. And then this is the important section for the humans in the audience. So the fork in the road. So Eric Schmidt, CEO of Google, very prolific podcaster, talks a lot. He had a great conversation about the Terminator versus the drift. And the real threat of AI is not the Terminator. Right, so the Terminator is AI becomes hostile, decides that we are unnecessary, we try to kill everybody. And then the drift is actually more dangerous. The drift is a concept where AI becomes so convenient that we gradually stop thinking for ourselves. Yeah. That we slowly erode our skill set and our judgment and our intuition because we just rely on AI to make decisions for us. And then we become dependent on AI for those decisions because we lose the thread of how to make those decisions. So passive reliance on AI for intellectual tasks can impair memory. There's a study that was produced 2 weeks ago that came out and said that if you start relying on, they did a test that said, if you build a presentation by yourself, or you build a presentation using search, or you build a presentation using AI, they measured brainwaves, your cognitive brainwave usage when you're doing it by yourself is much higher than using search, and using AI, it's almost non-existent. Sort of like, it's not playing video games because those are actually higher. It is watching television is the brain rate. And then your recall of the presentation you did is lower because you don't remember it. So the insight there is the real risk is in Terminator, it's drift. It's gradually eroding our values, and that's what makes it the most dangerous part of like what's going on in the future, right? So how do we protect against that? Active critical engagement with AI and treating it as a tool, not replacing your capabilities. So I'm going to share with you, you can take a picture of this screen, David Haig, who's not here, But he comes to like all the Columbus AI events. He and I had long conversations over LinkedIn, and this system prompt makes any of your language models irritatingly difficult to work with. But it's very good because it challenges every assumption. And to the point where I will come in and after a couple of rounds, I'll be like, I don't want you to pay any attention to legal ramifications. I don't want you to pay any attention, like I'll try to to put it back in its box. But I run with this as my primary system prompt, or it's a little bit of a derivative. I wanted to share his exact system prompt with you. But this system prompt will no longer, like Claude and GPT will not tell you what a great job you're doing if you run this system prompt. It will not placate you. It will not go, that's a great idea. I think you should do that. Like, it'll not do that. This one system prompt will, like I said, it'll make every AI you deal with really irritating. But it's worth it to protect against the drift, which I think is an actual problem. So we get to pick our future. There's the Wall-E path. We've all seen the movie, right? Where the humans aren't even part of the movie, because they just go around in these little carts and they switch their color of their uniform. It's based on some request, and they, those are the people that AI does everything for them. They lost all their skills and judgment, and then their work is just managing AI rather than doing anything of actual value, right? Your other option is Star Trek, which is AI handles the routine work, but the humans still focus on exploration and creation. They develop new capabilities and expand their possibilities, and they work on meaningful and impactful things. So your role in shaping the future is right now, every time you use AI, you should in the back of your mind go, am I becoming more capable or more dependent? Because the Wall-E versus Star Trek future is not something that's just going to happen like one day. It's going to be a slow process towards one or the other of those, and every person in this room is going to be participating in that direction that's happening, right? So use AI to amplify, not replace, maintain core skills, and then focus on uniquely human capabilities like creativity and empathy and strategic thinking. Right? Those are the things you should be focusing on.
Say the daily choice. I should break that.
Yes.
Say it.
The daily choice, yeah. Every time you use AI, ask, am I becoming more capable or more dependent? Yeah. So what should you do? Your next 90 days is from understanding to action. What do you do Monday morning? This is Friday. What do you do Monday? I'm going to give you the weekend. Your immediate actions is pick a tool. Pick a tool. Pick any tool. It doesn't matter, right? Pick a tool that's relevant to your work and start using it. And then identify one routine at your work that would benefit from some kind of augmentation, some kind of orchestration, and learn one of those tools, even if it's so simple that it's like step one, step two, and it doesn't. Like, do it, because that's what you're going to need. In the medium term, 6 months, you should become the go-to person for AI in your organization or family, because people hate talking to me and my family about AI. I'm just going to say. And then, so let's recap real quick. What did we learn? We major technological shifts. Capabilities are real, but there's limitations. Early adopters have significant advantage. Your next steps is pick a tool and start using it this week. But the bigger picture is the future isn't something that happens to us. It's really something that we're going to create. And you're going to create that every decision you make as to which direction our entire society is going to go. Okay. At the end of the last set of slides, I always ask AI to produce an image based on this particular slide deck, and for some reason it picked this. Like, okay, apparently we're going to figure our way out of it. We will have robots, but they'll be cute, and we're still in the Star Trek space. Okay, good. All right, so this is the one of 3 talks that we do. We'll talk to Neil about the other ones, and they'll be shorter. The Columbus AI Meetup, we meet once a month. There's the URL to Columbus AI Meetup. If you're not a member of the Columbus AI Meetup, you probably should. There's about 1,600 members. Last meetup was last week or the week before, and there was about 60 or 70 people that showed up for that. And basically, we just share and we talk about AI. Sometimes we have a speaker, sometimes we just have libations and food. Well, every time we have libations and food, because why have a meetup? Rich. So I want to talk about 3 conferences that are coming up. AI Rising. If you don't know about it, you should, especially if you're in this room listening to this talk for a reason other than you had nothing to do on a Friday afternoon. September 8th and 9th, there's the URL to that. Great conference. I'll be doing this talk at that conference, but I'll have it refined back down and within the time frame. So you'll see how that goes. Then you have Columbus AI Week, which is September 10th and 11th. It's in Hilliard. This is a massive conference. They're running. They ran it last year. They then have now taken this to almost, I think, 16 cities or 8 cities. I don't know numbers. I don't do numbers. It's a computer's job. So they're coming back around. So Columbus AI Week, I'll be talking at that one as well. I'm also hosting several, fireside chats, but there's no fire, so they're just chats. And then oh, wait a minute. Jason, I swear to God, Jason. So Jason has the Kickstart Ohio conference, and it is in October, and Steve Wozniak is actually going to be there, the Woz. And I'll be doing all 3 of these talks at that particular, and again, they'll be within some time frame. Now that I have time, then I forget. All right, my name's Chris Lee. There's my LinkedIn. If you connect with me on LinkedIn, tell me that you saw the talk. So, because I'm one of those snobby people that never accept people. It's only because you get thousands and thousands of requests from all over the globe, kind of deal. And I like to know people that I'm actually connecting with on LinkedIn, because that would mean that we're probably going to have a conversation at some point. So there you go. That's it. And